Story 1. The host makes all those subtle signs. When lights start to turn on in the main party areas or off in other areas. When the host changes from keep it tidy mode to full cleanup mode. When they start to talk about the time or what they might have to do the next day. Lots of signs like that, where the host does not want to say get out, but absolutely wants you to leave. Story 2. When the friendliest people start to leave, it is best to leave with them. Whoever is left behind will seem strange, and that is in the best case scenario. Story 3. When someone who does not live at the apartment or house you are at starts to make a complete mess. For example, shaking a bottle of champagne inside a condominium and acting like it was fun and cute, while other people clean up your mess as you behave like it was the right thing to do. Story 4. You have to learn to sense the mood change. Several people who were present when you arrive leave, and new people take their place. Story 5. When long pauses in conversation start to happen, it is clear everyone is tired and we are just holding ourselves hostage. It has to end sometime, so why not now so I can go smoke and lie down? Story 6. Yeah, once the mood changers arrive unannounced, it is time to leave, especially if the relaxed people are already leaving. Nothing good happens after the social connection ends. Story 7. Straight up, just trust your gut. If you think there are too many people there, then there are almost certainly too many people there. Get out before it gets busted. Story 8. When a single person shows up and a group of people shut themselves in a room, it usually means that strong drugs are about to be consumed. If that is not your preference, it is definitely time to leave. Strong drugs mean the night can become very unpredictable. Story 9. When something bad happens, leave as quickly as you can. For example, if a fight starts or someone falls into the bonfire. If the ambulance or the police are called and you are too drunk or high to provide assistance, then leave. Leave whenever you become a liability. Story 10. If you start feeling uncomfortable, it is okay to leave. No matter if people try to guilt you into staying, you do not have to. Sometimes the atmosphere changes, and your instincts will tell you it is time to go. Today, children have rideshare services at their fingertips. I wish I had that when things got a little uncertain, and I came with friends who did not feel the same as I did. Story 11. When people start getting too drunk too fast and you feel like you are babysitting instead of having fun, that is your cue to leave. Story 12. When you hear someone say, "Oh hell no," really loud. When the street lights click or buzz before they come on. Story 13. When the atmosphere is unfriendly and the mood feels dark, it is probably a good time to go home. Story 14. If your group has a few bad wipes early in a dungeon, it is usually a sign of worse things to come. Story 15. The overhead lights come on, the music stops, and the hosts start cleaning up. You do not have to go home, but you cannot stay there. I just realized I pretty much quoted lyrics from Closing Time. Is that still a bar closing song? It was back in the day. Story 16. Here's my advice. There will always be another party. So don't stick around just because you think you'll miss something if you leave. Many people suffer from the fear of missing out, and I was like that too. Police in the United States often patrol heavily between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. If you plan to stay at a party later than 11 p.m., make a solid plan to get home, to a hotel, or wherever you are going. Never spend the night at a party location unless you know everyone personally who is in attendance. For example, a party at your family's house is not a big deal to stay overnight. However, if you are at your best friend's house or apartment and there are strangers there you have never met before, make plans to sleep elsewhere. I am speaking from personal experience where a man was waving a gun at a party I was at and threatening people. B. At a different party from a girl was assaulted in one of the bedrooms. Story 17. When a drug dealer enters, even if you did not know they were coming or who they were, their entrance lets you know immediately. Get out fast. Anytime someone makes an entrance that catches attention when it is not a party in their honor, leave quickly. Story 18. What kind of parties are you all going to with all this violence? I stay until the end and help the host clean up. Story 19. Trust your intuition. If the atmosphere starts feeling strange, then it is probably time to leave. Start paying attention to the quality of people at the party if you are not good at reading the room. If the positive people start leaving, then you probably should too. Story 20. When the older crowd starts to show up, anything more than a 3 to 4 year age gap is a major red flag for both high school and college parties. Those people do not have good intentions. As soon as a group larger than 3 to 4 people goes upstairs or out of sight, it is no longer about socializing and is about to get weird. You do not always have to be the first of your friends to leave, but never be the last. Even if you make a new friend that night, they do not count. As soon as you start seeing your friends filter out, pack up and go. Anytime you notice people talking about one person individually, it is usually not good. When everybody at the party knows someone, that person is often there to cause problems, whether intentionally or not. Most importantly, leave whenever you want to. Do not stay just because your friends are staying. Your social energy does not have to match everyone else's. If your gut is telling you something, listen to it. Do not be afraid to leave early. If you were invited once, you will be invited again. Do not stress it. Story 21. When the conversation slows down and I get to a party where I know people, I move around the room talking and laughing. Then, about 2 hours in, I realize I have no more conversation topics, and no one else is coming up with anything. At that point, I am ready to leave. I am not going to stand there in a silent competition to see who can last the longest before ending the night. Story 22. When someone starts showing off a weapon. When a drunk person suddenly pulls out a gun and says, "Check out my illegal gun. I'm dangerous." Drunkenly waving a deadly weapon around in a room of peers for attention. Don't worry, I'm totally safe even though my finger is on the trigger and I just spilled a beer. Haha, let me point it at my best friend's face as a joke. Man, don't be so uptight. Or the person who thinks they are a ninja and starts twirling knives and swords. The gun is dangerous and an accident waiting to happen, but I know of 3 people who have been hurt and 1 who was killed by a sword from drunk people playing with weapons. 1 person lost a thumb in front of children. Summary: alcohol and weapons do not mix. Story 23. When someone you have never met taps your shoulder and tells you that the group of men you are conversing with have all been flashing the knives in their pockets, advising you to leave quickly unless you want to be harmed, you should listen carefully. I thanked him and immediately left after informing my friend. I believe we were very lucky that night that someone noticed these men carrying weapons and discreetly warned us. Story 24. It's one of those feelings, you know? Like when you walk into a place and feel really uneasy or something is off. It's almost like an unwelcome vibe. Also, if your social energy runs out or if you feel uncomfortable, it's time to leave. Story 25. I'm not bothered by drug use or anything. However, when someone who is not the party bartender starts offering drinks, I leave. Story 26. When the host starts cleaning, you either start helping or start leaving. The only exception is when the host is clearly making space for more fun activities. Also, if you see people putting keys in a bowl and you do not know what that means, just leave. Story 27. They run out of beer or one of the hosts goes out for more beer while the party is in full swing. When the beer runs out, everyone heads outside, and the police are going to show up. 9 times out of 10, someone who went out for beer either never returns or does not come back before the police arrive. Story 28. After 1 a.m., all the good experiences have happened. It is just prolonging, following the law of diminishing returns on drinking and partying. That 8 a.m. existential crisis watching a father of 3 lick cocaine off a mirror is never going to be the highlight of your life. Story 29. When the man who thought he was going to have sex realizes he is not, he will get angry and overreact to losing in beer pong. Always know 2 exits. Story 30. Growing up in Chicago in the 1980s, it was a time when people came in without talking or partying, just looking around. Time to go. Story 31. One thing I wish I knew is to just get a ride home if a bedroom is offered to you unless you know every single person there very well. I am 26, but 22 was hard. Story 32. Went to a party. About 3 hours in, the host asked me if I knew anything about fixing toilets because it had stopped flushing. I said, "That's funny. You asked if I knew anything about fixing toilets, but I heard, party's over." Story 33. When things are brought out that should not be mixed with alcohol, such as weapons, drugs, or keys because people are driving, nothing good ever happens past 2 a.m. That is excellent advice based on my experience. 2 a.m. is the hard cutoff, or even around 1:30 a.m. if I start to think about whether I should stay out. My philosophy is to never break more than one law at a time. Planning on speeding on the highway? Better not be doing anything else illegal. Obviously, this is not lawful advice, and you should never drink and drive or do anything illegal. Story 34. People start to arrive late who you do not know, stay to themselves, and do not look like they are having fun. Story 35. Rule number 1. Be prepared to leave at any time. Do not get too intoxicated to drive and have alternate ways of getting home. You can purchase breathalyzers to keep in your car. Have water, snacks, and a game on your phone to pass the time if you need to sober up in your car. Rule number 2. Look for signs indicating it is time to leave. If someone has a gun or another weapon, leave immediately. Weapons have no place in the hands of intoxicated people. If the host makes it clear they are done, leave. Alternatively, if the party is clearing out, leave. Do not overstay your welcome unless you need to sober up and know the host well. If a group of random strangers starts arriving, leave. You may also help the host remove them if you are able. If you feel threatened, stalked, or harassed, leave. Make sure no one follows you home. If the tone of the party conversations shifts from fun to mean, leave. A fight may be about to break out. If the music is still loud past 11 o'clock in a quiet neighborhood, leave. Also, leave if the police arrive. Police are more strict at night. If you do not know anyone there, leave. You may be at the wrong party. Check the address your friend sent you again. If you are not having fun, leave. Unless you are obligated to be there for work or a similar reason, no one is forcing you to stay. Finally, if your gut feeling or subconscious tells you it is time to go, leave. It is better to be safe than sorry. Story 36. A gut feeling. If you get a strange feeling about something, listen to it. In my late teens and early 20s, my friends and I went to our old high school and smoked marijuana. I got a bad feeling and became sober quickly. I left, took a different route home, and pulled my hood up. I walked with headphones on but no music. As I was walking, I heard police on the next street. I remained calm, took every shortcut I knew, and got home safely. A few of them were arrested. Story 37. When someone misplaces their phone or wallet and starts accusing random people at the party of stealing it. Story 38. I have my 3 lulls and I'm out rule. If there are 3 distinct lulls in the party, when things feel kind of in between and the fun seems to have stopped for a bit, I take that as a cue. It usually means either the host is signaling that they want to end the party is naturally coming to an end, or I am simply not having much fun. Story 39. I used to be friends with an older chaplain and his wife years ago. A group of younger couples often went to their house to hang out. Whenever he wanted some peace and quiet and was done having company, he would stand up and say, "Love you all, get out." He was always very funny, and his delivery of that was perfect. Story 40. When someone starts to talk about religion or politics, it is time to find the exit. One time in college in 1986, we had a drunk girl at a party start talking about the Backers, Jim and Tammy Faye PTL ministry. My friend and I looked at each other and started to head to the door. We were about 50 feet away from the house and had to walk home. Then we heard a window break. I am glad we left as soon as we heard that first word spoken. Story 41. When the man you met at the after party who gave you cocaine takes you to the after party, which turns out to be a crack den, overdoses on heroin, leave immediately. Story 42. When people start treating the person's home like a nightclub, smoking inside, putting cigarette butts on the floor or in the sink, and making messes, and strangers arrive that no one really knows. Story 43. Who knows what young people know these days? When the lights come up and the music shuts down, it is pretty much closing time. Story 44. I used to work as a bouncer. Some nights you could walk into the club and feel something. It is like tension. There is nothing you can specifically point to and say that is it, but there is something in the air. That tension is a good sign to leave. The night is going to end badly. Story 45. Almost all of these suggestions are about when you are better off leaving, not when common courtesy says it is time to go. If your hosts or their close friends start cleaning up, go home. Story 46. If there is an argument and one of the people involved leaves the party angry, it is time for you to leave as well. Maybe they are just cooling off, but too often they come back with a weapon. Story 47. There is a story on this topic that I love. Carrie Fisher said that she managed to obtain a rare copy of the 1978 Star Wars Holiday Special from the studio in exchange for doing some commentary. She said she would put it on at the end of the night to get people to leave. If you have seen the Star Wars Holiday Special, you will understand. Story 48. When you hear someone whistling, it often signals trouble. I have been to many parties where some people whistled in a very distinct way right before a major fight broke out. I dislike TikTok, but this is the only video I found through a search engine. Story 49. The host double knee slaps while standing up and says, "Well, I heard this is standard in the Midwest." Story 50. When someone is intoxicated and crying. When people who really should not be together are making out. When the room is so crowded you cannot turn around without touching 5 people. When you smell marijuana smoke. When someone is talking about their suicidal thoughts and everyone is responding as if it is okay. When the friend with epilepsy sets up the strobe light and stands in front of it staring at the blinking light. When there is feces on the walls. When you find yourself alone with a stranger. Then you know. Leave and never come back. Story 51. Here is a secret I learned the hard way about work parties. Have 2 drinks, then leave. I admit I have relied on alcohol to seem normal socially in my life, but nothing good ever happens after 2 drinks. Story 52. Here is my quick list compiled from years of experience. Always leave before something gets broken or stolen. When the party becomes loud enough that people start disrespecting the owner's home or property, do what you can to stop it. Alert the homeowner and say, "I was on my way out. Nice party, thanks. Sorry that happened." Stop drinking immediately if there is a noise complaint. You will need to leave soon. The next complaint may be in about 30 minutes. Problem drinkers come in all ages and types. Learn to recognize them. I am referring to those who become angry and aggressive after 2 drinks. When you hear conversations shift from normal topics to comments like, "Why is that guy looking over here?" or "I'm going to mess them up," it is time to find a new place to hang out. If there is a campfire or bonfire, it is natural to add wood, poke the coals, and roast marshmallows. However, a number of intoxicated individuals may try dangerous behavior, such as throwing gasoline on the fire or throwing cans in to see if they explode. These actions are a clear sign to end the night. Story 53. When hard drugs are involved, it is a bit of a spectrum. I have been to parties with a few people using cocaine, but they were still okay. However, there was one party where a group of people went to smoke methamphetamine in the backyard, and that was it for me. It turned out to be a good decision because I later heard the party was raided by the police. Story 54. When I was young, I was the last one to show up and the last one to leave. Now, I am the first one to show up and the first one to leave. I always think about James Franco from Pineapple Express. Am I lingering? Am I the linger? Story 55. Weapons. If you are at a party and people have weapons on them, leave. Someone usually does not bring a gun to a party because they are just trying to have a good time. Also, guns and alcohol do not mix. The last thing you want is to be around someone getting drunk with a loaded gun on them, especially if they are not shy about letting people know they are carrying. Story 56. Few things depending on the party. The host yawns and says they are tired. When a large group of people head out, it is easier to join them. A girl crying in the bathroom. Random guys show up and start acting suspicious. Story 57. When drugs are involved, other than marijuana, I don't trust people on cocaine or any of that. You never know what they could do. I can't be around it, so I leave. There have been too many times problems have occurred because someone gets high. If someone pulls out a weapon, I am gone immediately. I think recreational drugs have become way too normalized. Young people should avoid being around substances like these. Nothing good comes from using cocaine or other hard drugs. Story 58. The rush chair guides you into a side room with the other undesirables and says to help yourself to punch and cookies. Story 59. When it starts becoming crowded and what began as a party where you knew most of the people turns into a gathering of strangers, it changes the atmosphere. Drunken teenagers attract police and trouble like flies on waste. When the overall vibe and the demographics of the crowd change before your eyes, it is time to leave. Story 60. I know I'm not giving a specific time, but leave whenever you want to. As a 31-year-old who has attended many parties, nothing good or sad happens in the early hours. People never think badly of you for leaving early, especially when you wake up without a hangover or anxiety the next morning. If anything, it's very freeing. Story 61. When the energy shifts and people start breaking off into smaller, quieter groups, it usually means the peak of the night has passed and conversations are getting repetitive or forced. It is a good cue to leave before the atmosphere becomes stale or awkward. Story 62. In my younger days, I had a contact who could supply parties with alcohol. I had rules for parties that kept me and my friends out of trouble. Scuffles, yelling, fights. Any of these can turn into brawls, melees, or all-out chaos. People get hurt and people call the police. Openly doing felony possession of drugs. Somewhere at that party, there is a room where a handful of people go behind a closed door. Whatever is happening behind that door, you likely don't want to be part of it. If something that should be behind a closed door is happening out in the open, get out. Neighbors watching things happen at the house you are at. If the host is freaking out, get out. Older men or parents partaking. The number of stories I have heard of parents or random middle-aged men doing something terrible to their teenagers' peers are few, but they always start with, Johnny's dad was partying with us, and too many people, like a crowd crush. If you are going to a party where it is your friend group, grade, or school, and there is a large percentage of people you do not know or no one knows, that is a red flag. This may be mildly controversial, but anyone literally begging to be intimate is likely intoxicated beyond the point of consent and probably has a habit of doing this, risking sexually transmitted diseases. Additionally, men who behave like this tend to be violent. Story 63. When they start pouring liquor into the beer funnel, leave. The next phase of the party involves a lot of vomiting, some fistfights, possible alcohol poisoning, and a few arrests. Story 64. Never go to a second location. If we are partying at the house, stay at the house until you go home. If you are at the club, pick a good one and stick to it. Especially if everyone is drinking. The drive to or from a second location is always where something happens. Story 65. Tons of unfamiliar people arriving. Guests very drunk, stoned, and belligerent. Police at the door. Last statement is a joke. Story 66. I try to leave when the party is as fun as I think it will get. There is rarely a time when a party will get really fun, drop off, then pick way back up. It does not happen. As Mercutio said, away, be gone. The sport is at its best. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.